Welcome to Lindholme Lakes for the latest live match. Now, big event coming up here for me, the Commercial National. My Drennan Barnsley team have won it for the last 3 years, so this year, pressure on. I know it's going to be tougher than ever. We've got the match on Laurel's Pool, loads of fish in here, it's warm, it's commercial bagging season now, so hopefully we're in for a good day. Peg 2 on Laurel's, gang. Definitely the area of the lake I wanted to be. It's warm today, one of the first mild or really mild days we've had. Got in my van this morning, it was 13 degrees, 15 by the time we got here. It's expected to get up to 20, so definitely wanted to be in this warm wind, and we are, thankfully. Approach wise, I've set up a bit of everything. I've got a nice edge to my left, but it plumbs up terrible. Not decided yet whether I'm going to fish shallow down there in them reeds or closer in. I'm going to see what happens out there and make a decision on that later. I'm going to start on pellets short and just feel my way in. Got hard pellets, I've got soft pellets, so I can be nice and versatile. But I think the dominant line, if we've got one today and if we're going to win, is a long pole shallow. Got rigs set up for different depths. I've got jiggers, I've got fixed rigs, I've got overshotted rigs, so plenty to play with. Certainly going to be interesting. But what I'm really happy about is this peg gives me lots of options. We should get plenty of bites, and it'll be a really good practice for the Commercial National that's coming up. So whether we win, whether we lose, we're going to learn a lot hopefully, and we'll get plenty from the day. So enjoy it. Hope I don't swear too much. Just might get a few ducks in my peg. Yeah, wish me luck. Let's rock and roll. There we go, gang. Kicking off. I'm just going to sprinkle a few pellets in on this really close line, bottom of the first shelf. Not a complicated start to the match at all. Just a few micros and an odd hard 4mm. And then I'm just going to check my distance for firing bait and see if I can just pick a nice marker to fire to. So I've got a stumpy tree on the island out there. I'm saying that's about bang on. And I can just be confident then that this catapult, I've actually using an Incredible to fire them today, just because I've got this wind in my face and you can generally keep them pretty tight. I'll just make sure this one's not, and that one's quite nice as well. I've got a couple of options there. If wind gets up, I can use that heavier one. If we're going to bag up, I think that's where we're going to catch. And I'm going to start, literally, 4mm expander, super duper simple, on that close line where I've just potted them few pellets. And like I said, I've got edges, I've got loads of shallow rigs set up, but I'm not going to start worrying about any of that until I've actually decided what I think's working and what's not. Got a little prototype pole pot on there, just with micros. My rig for sure is a 0.5 of a gram bobby with a wire stem. It's on 017 engage. I've got a little Bulk and 2 number 9 droppers and a 4-inch 013 engage hook length and a 16 super MWG. Neat little pellet rig, and I'm just literally start the match, just setting a trap there, just make an assessment of what's about. Generally this line gives you a good feel for what's going to happen on commercials. If it's crap and you don't get a lot of bites here, you're probably in for a tough day and you're going to have to make the most of the latter part of the match. But normally if you get a few bites early close in like this, it means there's fish around and you can probably push your peg a little bit, be a bit more aggressive. So it doesn't really matter what you catch on this line. Obviously you want to catch, but for me it acts as a bit of a gauge for the rest of the day. A good view of the lake from here as well, so I can see up both banks. I've got my mate Gav next door. He's Gav's actually in our Barnsley Blacks team, so He's here practicing with me today, and we've drawn next to each other. And I actually drew the golden peg out this morning, peg 4, and Gav's gone and drawn it. So if he wins the match today, he gets another 150 quid. So thankfully, we're sharing, aren't we, Gav? Yeah, he says when it suits, yeah. If it suits. No indications at all so far, which is not good, gang. Not good. What I'm wary of this early part is I want to be quite dominant out there on that shallow line. So I'm going to be quite aggressive. Feeding sort of 30-40 casters twice to start with, just to get some bait on the bottom and make plenty of noise to try and draw some fish in. The fact I've not had a bite yet, and the fact that I haven't seen any better fish top, only an odd little silver, tells me that this could be a bit harder than we first thought, you know. Little indication then, there's one there. Come in and feed again. I feel like I want to make sure that there's a bit of bait going in. I'm not going to be super negative to start with. Got plenty of room. Just saw one top in the corner then. Like I said earlier, I don't know what to do in that edge. I don't know whether to fish a bit closer to me on the bottom down here, or go a bit further and sort of fish shallow into some reeds. I'm going to see if see what we catch short and see if we get any bites shallow first, and then make that decision. A lot of people try and decide a bite. A lot of people try and decide what they're going to do straight away. I think sometimes on commercials like this you can fish for a little while, see what happens, and then make some decisions. Certainly what I like to do. Might just take 2, 3, 4 little feeds with this pot just to get a few fish here. Also got a few 4mm. If it is a bit tricky, perhaps throw in a few of them in. Might draw some fish. I know that Gav next to me is fishing hard pellets, so I'm going to use him as a bit of a gauge as well if he's catching. And maybe hard pellets will be a better way to go on him. We have got an airport nearby here, so you might hear an odd plane today, gang. Excuse me if you do. Throw a few hard pellets in. 4mm, not a lot, like 5 or 6, just this side of my float, twice, just as a bit of noise, a bit of something else falling, because I feel like there's only fish there at the moment. I really did think we'd have had one by now. Carp, Gav. Got a Couple of ducks on my shallow line, which is nice. At least we're doing some feeding. Small fish, that's what I thought they might be. Little tiny skimmers, not good. Tiny little things, no good at all then. Not a good sign that, isn't it? They're there. Saying there's not a lot else there. Wouldn't mind if they were like £3 a piece. It'd be alright. You know what I'm going to do? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put on a medium pot. The odd and there, a few 4mm. Just going to find a little bit a bit further out and rattle in some hard pellets and just see what I can catch, because at the minute it's crap there where I'm fishing. No bites at all. Just there, a bit shallower, a bit further out in the lake. Just going to rattle them in. Something you can do is plumb up, have a few pellets in your pot like I have, and once you've found your spot, just put them in, and then it's ready to actually go out on it. If you ever have to plumb a line up as you're fishing like that. But at the minute, that short line could only be described as pants. See if I put a 6mm in my band, not a big one. Like a standard 6mm. Rattle a few 4s in. Just see if there's anything sat out there a bit, because it's not doing any good sat short like that. I don't feel like there's any fish there. Good to know though for the big day. Same concept, little pole pot on. Rattling a few out, rig right on top of them. It's a little bit shallower that side, about a foot shallower than in front of me. Whether or not that's going to make any difference and they want to be in a little bit shallower water, I don't know. It's quite flat and hard to the bottom as well there. Maybe that aerator's desilted it a little bit. Can't beat a nice flat hard bottom, can you? Love a nice bottom, I do. Odd indication straight away. There we go. Doesn't feel like it's hooked in the mouth, but at least we've There we go, he's off, but at least we're up to fish. That's good. First chuck on the new line. Back in, same again. Feed a few less this time, just literally 8 4 mils. The reason I don't want to go shallow straight away is I feel like you need to gather some fish, you need to feed it, get them there, get them competing. If you go straight on it, I mean, I'm sure I'd catch an odd un, but I feel like you never build it up enough to get a load there and catch them in numbers later on. I've seen an odd carp in this corner top now, and I just feel like fishing hard pellets that way. I might nick an odd one of them early as well. It's not good, we haven't even caught a proper fish yet, 2 tiny skimmers and we're half an hour in. Very weird start. I mean, we're 51 minutes in, I ain't even had an F1 yet. I don't want to go shallow yet, but what I am going to do, if I go short, if I go on hard pellets out the way, sort of the 2 things I thought would give me a start, and caught absolutely nothing. All I've got in my net at the minute is 2 little tiny skimmers. Gav's only got, I think, 4 F1s next to me. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to have a ship out on the bottom underneath my shallow line, just because if there's no fish anywhere else short and to my left where it's a bit shallower, maybe they just sat out in the lake in that deeper water, and it'll give me a clue as well. I'll get some liners and what have you if there is a few fish up in the water on this line. Just got double maggot on. Just going to drop underneath it on the bottom. 0.6 of a gram pinger. Bulk and a couple of droppers. Quite positive. See if we can catch something worth catching, folks, because at the minute this is gash. That'll be a skimmer, I should imagine. I really don't mind because nothing in the net at the moment. Like I said, I don't want to go shallow yet. I want to keep building it. Tiny roach. One thing I will say, you don't need to empty it on these kind of venues to knock up a big weight. So if you do have a quiet, you know, first out, it's very easy to let your head drop and get yourself out of it. Whereas I'm looking round and no, I've hardly seen any fish caught. Gav's got 4 F1s to my right and a few silvers, but other than that, I'm really wary that there's not a lot being caught. So little flurry of action and you're right in the race. Not decided anything on the margins yet. I'm looking down there and don't know what to do yet. Not caught anything or had enough signs to give me any clues. Just had a liner then on this, like as if one were bumping into my rig up in the water, which is a good sign. I've also just seen a swirl. Got a feeling that there's some shallow already. That were a liner then that I missed. Definitely some fish shallow. Don't want to go on it too early, too quick. Just going to put that chunky bit of worm on. Something a bit bigger for him to pick out. On bottom. On the bottom. On the bottom of the ocean. There's a worm at the bottom of the garden. And his name is Wiggly Worm. Come and eat my piece of worm. You F1s, I hate you. Sometimes a chunk of worm can be a good hook bait underneath your casters. A little piece on hook. Bite straight away on it then. Got a feeling we're going to almost be bullied into going shallow before we wanted to, folks. Generally like a minimum an hour, but ideally a bit longer. You know, 90 minutes of feeding it. 6 hour match today as well. Really concentrating to see when I do fire my casters in. Like there, missed a bite then. Are there fish up in the water? I think there are. Something a little bit better on the bottom there, folks. And that bigger chunk of worm. Probably an F1, I'm saying. Little carp, little mirror. I'm going to turn my nose up at him. Because it's the first proper fish I've had, that is. Got a sort of inch piece of dendra on. Really careful not to let too many casters go miles past my poult if I want to feed everything just this side really. Still keep throwing an odd 4mm short. Them little carp like that one I've just caught, you can sometimes catch them late on, close in. Wind's just got a little bit naughty for us folks, like, ooh, it's blowing right to left. Whereas this morning when we got here it was sort of straight at us. Whenever it's straight at you, you can hold your pole a lot better than when it's across you. It doesn't actually matter if it's blowing at you. Perch. Just what we come to Lindholme for, they are, aren't they? I'm just going to concentrate now. It's 2 hours in and have a little go on my shallow line. I'm feeding it, I'm feeding it, I'm feeding it. I don't want to be negative, but I've got a feeling we're not going to catch on it just because there's not been any fish to catch on anything. But it's the only hope I've got of actually doing any good at the moment. A little banding tool. Going to pop a nice sized Wickersley's finest caster in a band, like so. Starting a 0.4 of a gram jigger. Reason for starting on a jigger is don't know if there is any fish there. I don't know what depth they're going to be. The nice thing about a jigger is you can mix it up a little bit and try and find them. My stops at the minute are set about 14 inches. There we go, we've got one straight away. That's only a silverfish, I think. Not good. Roach. It's not what we wanted. Another roach. This is not what we want, folks. And it's tangled my jigger now and it's come off. Not a good sign, folks, that there's so many roach shallow. Really not good. We needed them to be F1s pulling the elastic out, not 3 and 4 ounce roach. I mean, great fish in a winter silverfish match. That's a good sign, folks. 3 or 4 drops in. I think we've got an F1 shallow, which is what we need. A fighter. after. Unfortunately, very, very much too late, but we've got one. I'm not going to moan. Caster in a band, jigger about 14 inches deep. This is, I think, is the only way we're going to win anything today now. I mean, if it's good, we've got 4 hours left, which is a ridiculous amount of time. A lot of small fish in among, well, a lot of small fish there and an odd F1 in amongst them, I'm saying. Just going to try, because I'm getting so many roach on that rig, I'm going to try an overshotted rig. See if it's any better. See if it'll be a little bit more small fish proof, because I can't sort of pull it through that jigger. There we go, a little bit shallower. Overshotted rig and we've got one. Maybe it's the way to just pick an odd one off today. I mean, the good ones when you get them. £2 fish. They're the ones you want. Great big, I can't even get my hand around him. £3 reefer. So interestingly folks, gone shallow after the 2 hour mark, and I was just about to come off it because I was getting roached out, and I hooked an F1, and it's apparent there's an odd un there. Not a load. I've swapped about, I've had a little spell now where I've swapped between 3 or 4 different rigs at different depths, and to be honest I've nicked a few at all of them, which tells me that they're not settled yet, but I am catching an odd one now. I've had 5 or 6 shallow, and the good ones, they're like £1.5, £2 F1s when I get them. Tried a jigger, didn't have any on that, but then I had a couple on a little overshotted rig about 12 inches deep, a couple on a fixed rig at that same depth, and it seemed to disappear, and I just dropped deeper to about 2.5 foot, and I've had 3 on this. Now the thing is with the shallow fishing, when it's steady like this, it feels like you're spending a long time not catching anything, but just because it's so repetitive, you know, lifting, dropping, especially with an overshotted rig moving it all the time. If you can catch a 2-pounder every sort of 3, 4, 5 minutes, you soon knock a weight up. It's very easy to feel like you're not catching at the right rate, when actually you keep going at that rate, you do well. Just wary. I don't want to have sort of gone on it too quick and be knackering my chances for later. But I'm obviously keen to catch a few because I've had such a slow start. Another thing that I have done is I've made the decision to start firing some casters. There we go, look, another one. I've made the decision to start firing casters. Oh, it's come off, the little devil. To the reeds down to my left. Just because I've had a little run shallow here. They obviously want to eat casters. I caught nothing on soft pellets, nothing on hard pellets. I'm not feeling pellets at all. Coming towards that spawning time, so casters, worms. So I've got the option in that edge now of feeding little balls of the worm mix and fishing on the bottom, or, because I'm loose feeding some casters down there, maybe even catching shallow in the reeds on casters. This overshotted rig, I ain't done a lot of it. I've fished a couple of matches here so far and caught a few on it. It's all about just keeping the rig moving and flicking it up in amongst the loose feed. I've got a 6-inch hook length, 13 N-gauge, 18 SLWG and a banded caster. And then I've got a little bulk of number 11s above that. And the reason for having that 6-inch hook length is, there we go. The reason for that longer hook length is when you do flick it up, there's a little bit more movement and waft, so to speak. I don't know if that's an official rig word, waft, but it just flicks up nicely and you get a little bit of movement. And then set the rig at what it should be set at in terms of shotting, which is 3 number 11s, and I've just put 1 number 8 too many on it, and that means the float's always sinking slowly. It also means the rig's always tight, so you should, in theory, I'm going to shallow that up a little bit. I felt like they were a little bit shallower then. So because the float's always sinking, because it is overshotted, everything's always tight, so they shouldn't be able to get away with it. Every time one sucks your bait in, because it's tight and you're flicking it and pulling it, you should always sort of be able to hook them. That's the theory anyway. A little bit like a jigger. Got 0.1 of a gram carbon cookie on. Another one. Just showered it up a tiny bit that time. That one that I actually had then was just hooked in the side of the face, and I'd lost one the chuck before, so I just tweaked it literally 3 inches, and that one's absolutely nailed. It was absolutely nailed in the top lip, which normally tells you that you've got it about right depth wise. Really lacking a good start today I was, because this is getting steady now. Feels alright. Got a bit of company out there with a few ducks. just like flicking it up 2 or 3 inches, stopping quite hard to try and flick that weight up. Feels like it's going to be a bit of a swap between a few different rigs sort of day, shall I? Not sure that we're just going to be able to fish at one depth and clatter them. Like there, we just come shallow. Oh, I've got another one there now. It's not an F1, I think it's a big roach or a skimmer. It's a little F1, that'll do. See that particular one there? Again, I don't know if you can see, it's just sort of hooked on the side of the mouth. So I feel like I'm not at the right depth there. So what I'm going to do is pick up my little bit shallower one. See if I can find exactly where they are. These banding tools are absolutely great. You know, if you struggle getting casters in your band, literally just pop your caster in your tool like that, pull your band off, and it's on in seconds. They are fan-blooming-tastic. See if they are a little bit shallower. Some right roach, Gav, isn't there? Nah, straight away, look, just about chasing them up and down. I feel like, because they're not settled, they're moving about a lot today. We're going to have to do quite a lot of changing rigs and... Whoa, he's going mental. Could be a carp, that. Could also be foul hooked. Feels foul hooked, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, it is. I think it's in the bottom. The bum, no harm done, as they say. He's off. Yeah, he was foul hooked. Could be even shallower than that. You can tell when there's an F1 there, because you don't get a roach bite. How many hours is that? 3 since we changed rigs, but 3 for probably £6–7. This fixed rig I'm using, it's a 0.1 of a gram carbon cookie, and it's just on 0.17 engage. It's got a 4-inch up length on, 0.13 engage, free little number 11 shot just above the 4-inch up length, just so I can keep everything nice and tight. I think the reason that it's probably alright, the fixed rig, compared to like a an overshotted rig is I can get the pole tip away from the water a little bit. Like if you look when I'm netting the fish, you can see it's still quite clear. You can see them coming up from a foot or so below, and they're not daft. They get fished for every day. These big old F1s. I think just keeping your pole tip away from the surface a little bit can be good. Got a little number 8 back shot about 3 inches above the float, and what that allows me to do is I can use that long line. I mean, have a look at the size of these. This one's another donkey. Look at that. What that allows me to do is I can hold the line between the float tight, so I've got the bolt effect, but I've also got the benefit of having the pole tip away from the fish. Whereas people who are using an overshotted rig or a little tiny line, yes, they've got a brilliant bolt. If these are wary, which they clearly are today, because it's been tricky, keeping that pole away, very, very important. This is probably the best little, there we go. This is probably the best little spell that we've had, to be honest. You can see just there, all I'm doing, just holding that line between the float and the pole tip tight, so I've got as much of a chance of hitting a bite. If it shoots under, this should pull the elastic out, but the pole tip's away from the fish. That's what I think is very, very important on these trickier days. See, like now, little roach, maybe. I'm thinking if I get another one, I want to change some, change depth, change rigs, just change something. I said before, when you get a little spell way out and it's very, like another roach, so like there, I feel like now I just want to go a little bit deeper. Caught 2 of them in 2 chucks. I'm just going to move my float up, literally 2.5 inch, something like that. They might just have spooked a little tiny bit deeper. See if we get one tiny bit deeper, 2.5 inch. Gab's found them now, shallower as well. Definitely lost them a little bit now. Don't know where they've gone. A skinner or a roach or something. Gonna pick my jigger up. I'm not sure. Pick my jigger up and set it a little bit deeper than what I'm at there. Just see if I can find them with this. So I've gone back on a jigger, I've set it about 18 inches, just so that I can sort of see if I can explore the depth a little bit more with this. Whereas with a fixed rig, obviously you can't drop it any deeper than what you're actually at. You can see my little stop above my float, sort of lowering it down, lift it back up, little jig, lower it down, little jig back up. I can just explore them layers a little bit more. Roach. No, it's gathered literally 3 in 3 chucks and then gone again. Lowered it right down to my stop then. Cracking roach, 4 or 5 ounce, but no, not going to win out with them, brother. I wonder if there's going to be any coming that edge shallow in them reeds. I mean, it looks great. Bit of breeze going that way. Shallowed it up again that time a few inches. I don't know if you saw, just because I've caught a couple of roach. Wonder if they've, now look, got one straight, so that could be a clue for me to get back on the fixed rig and nail a few quick. Just see if we can keep catching on this for now. Stop flipping. No, I'm gonna have a little look down there, just see. If there is, it'd be perfect because I could drop down there, nail a couple, drop back out along, nail a couple. That'd be the dream boat scenario. Not feeling it though. Oh, now then. Now then, now then. That's what we wanted. Straight away, we've got one. So now I've got 2 little areas I can play with on the shallow side of things. Good. It's good. Very good news that. Maybe catch a few down there. Go back out long and put my maggots here now. we need. Two shallow lines on the go. Exactly what we need. Seems quite good, that, folks. Glad that sort of made that decision to loose feed there. And it just shows you what I said right at the start, even when I was sat catching nothing. The edge fishing's not always about just going down there and clattering them. And it's sometimes worth having a little bit of an assessment of how it's fishing and what's going to be a dominant method before you decide what to do. I mean, I'm not saying we've got it right down there, but we have caught 3 pretty quick. Got a jigger on, 0.4 of a gram, exactly the same one as I had out long. Little 0.4 gram Olivet on it. It's set about 14 inches deep. Really wary about fishing here, not feeding the long line as well, so any opportunity I get when I'm not looking down here, I'm going to fire some casters out there as well. Good fish, they're really good fish they are. Gone a bit weird, gang. The fish shallow long. Don't know if it's because I came off it to fish down here and I weren't quite feeding it the same, but they've just not settled back out long as good. So I've sort of been bullied into going back down here. I am catching an odd one now. I've changed this back to casters because there were little fish coming in, like little roach and stuff down here, and I just felt like casters are a little bit more small fish proof. But long, I'm hoping I can settle them back down. I'm really making the effort that every time I come in, it's difficult to feed facing this way. It's difficult to feed accurately. 13 metres out there. It's annoying really. So any chance I get when I come in, I'm yeah, look, got one there. Not that easy to catch. You've got to really concentrate and move it nicely. Little 3 or 4 inch lifts on the jigger. Any chance I get to feed shallow out there, I'm keeping it going best I possibly can. Yeah, one thing I would say though, the fish that I've had in the edge down there have been real good fish. Not sure, like that close in, obviously we've got the camera boys there, I'm telling them to stay as still as possible. I'm just not sure they're going to stay there till the end, so I really feel that I'm still going to need this line out here. Like lowering it in, trying to feed before I go on, lowering it in, getting it to the depth and feeding on top of the float, just lifting and dropping it 3-4 inches, little jigs. There's a lot more to the technique of like either jigger fishing or the overshotted rig. I know we did a podcast with Bagger that caused quite a stir about it. There's definitely an awful lot to it. It's really interesting. Love to spend a day with like Christian or someone who really knows about it. Christian Jones. Feel like there's loads of little tweaks and edges within it. Just like the long line, it's like 2-3 fish, nothing. 2-3 fish, nothing. Right, feeling like a jigger's going to be better now. Missing an odd bite, bumping an odd one. Get my pole away from him a little bit, I can have it set a bit deeper. And I can just swing around and I can fish out here, jig it a bit deeper, I can fish down that edge and just sort of stay on a rig. Not to be lazy, but just so I can like sort of nip out, catch a couple out there, nip back in that edge. Catch a couple in the edge sort of thing. There we go, one on the jigger. Definitely not as big out there as they are in the edge. Not that it matters. Really tough shallow fishing today, but really enjoyable. Rock hard start and then constantly like making changes to keep catching depths, rigs. Beautiful F1s in Lindholme. Sort of settled a little bit now into onto a depth where they seem to be quite consistently happy, and it's like 20 inches deep. I think it's important if you're trying to get them settled like I have been doing. I mean, we're well into the last couple of hours now. It's took a while. But it's important to pay attention to how much you're feeding. It seems like 20 casters twice is about right. Obviously they go over quite a big area in this wind and that, but if you're constantly varying how much you're feeding, you never actually get them to sit at a certain level, because they're always following different amounts up and down. Whereas if you're actually consistent with it, it sort of keeps everything even. Definitely seem to have settled a little bit now. Went for Will Raise and Power Scoop. Missed it. Smallest one at day, boys. Not even worth bothering, I'm saying. New disgorgers. New disgorgers are hard raw. Love them. Clean. So mate, I'm obviously lucky enough to spend a lot of time with people like Andy Bennett, and the tiniest changes he sort of tweaks and makes shallow fishing, convinced it makes a difference. And it's exactly the same in any fishing, you know. Steve Ringo and his another one, look, that's definitely properly hooked, clean take, just that little depth tweak. Any fishing, little tiny tweaks and changes. The difference between a 4 and a 5 inch hook length on a method, or how hard you squeeze your hybrid ball, and roach fishing, whether you're an inch on bottom or an inch off bottom, it's massive. And this is no different. these fish are coming up, intercepting the bait, and if your hook bait's not at the perfect point where they're eating, you ain't going to catch them. And that's why them little changes are the difference between catching odd uns and missing an odd un and foul looking an odd un, and then you get nice golden runs where you catch one pretty much every chuck, and that's when you've got it absolutely cock on. At the minute this is going quite well now. What is interesting as well from a learning point of view, obviously caught to some cover down here today, as in like there's some reeds, there's an old platform there and it's a bit rocky and horrible, but sometimes think when wind's blowing in like this, just firing a few casters into the reeds and getting fish like in them, sucking, working for bait, just holds them there. Definitely something that you can not only do down the edges, but if you've got islands or a reed bed or a bank to fish up to, and there's a lot of pegs on this commercial national that we're going to be fishing where you're going to have that sort of thing. So it's been good sort of fishing down here today. Realising how important that little bit of cover is, especially tightly pegged match that commercial national is going to be. See how now it's just gone a little bit iffy. Say that and get one. I was just about to say maybe I need to think about a little rest again. Drop back in out there, I'm not sure. A bit smaller one, look. I'm actually going to do it. I'm not even going to drop back in there. I'm going to have a little rest now. Point of my hook's just gone over, so I'm going to change him. Keep your eye out for that, folks. Obviously, catching a lot of fish. These F1s got rock hard, bony mouths. If you're banding a caster like I am today, you can't actually tell whether your hook's blunt or not. So I always have an odd little prick of my finger, or just have a little look at the point. I could actually see the point of it had gone a little bit there. It happens on any hook. Super LWGs need no bigging up. The best hook in the world for this kind of thing. But just keep your eye on it. Just going into the last hour, folks. Really mixed feelings, to be honest. Frustrated that we had such a hard start, because it could cost us that, because having built up the shallow line, it's been very, very good. It's just steadily got better and better, and the fish have sort of settled, which is what I hoped and expected. We've got plenty of room, the wind's great for us, but regretting maybe not fishing like worms or something a little bit more, you know, skimmery, catch an odd F1, maybe catch a carp or two early on. I think if I'd have done that, I might have got a little bit better start, and then combine that with the second half of the match that I've had, it'd have been great. But shallow fishing's all about building it up, working out where they are, and then at the prime time making the most of them, and I feel like we've done that quite well. But we've got an hour to go. I've got this long shallow line where I'm catching an odd one now, and I've got the edge what I can also go down. Definitely little patterns of like little golden spells, and then you almost need to come off it and give them a little rest. Very, very good fishing, very interesting. Still seems to be that sort of 15-inch depth is very good today. Got to keep an eye out. I think obviously even though here at Lindholme you don't have to have any stops on your line or anything now, definitely feel like today a jigger's been good during this last bit because water's quite clear still and it just allows me to keep that pole away from the fish, and that's, I feel like it's really important. It's something Alan Scoffone told me about on this venue a couple of years ago. See, like that time I had a slightly smaller F1, now I've got a roach. I'm going to use those as signs that I want to drop down this edge again. So I reckon if I go down here now I'll have another good little run down the edge. Obviously the key, keeping both of them fed all the time. There you go, look at that. Literally just had it teed up, waiting. Fed it for that time that I was fishing out there. And I'm hoping I'll have a real good little spell there. Just bounce these two lines off each other. Keep catching. Definitely an odd bigger one in the edge. Even shallow in the edge. Get an odd one that just doesn't come in, and then you get 4 or 5 that come in dead easy. I suppose when they're that big you don't mind. See if we get another quick bite. Obviously, what I keep talking about is if you come off it, leave it, you have a good run. And I'm hoping that's what we're going to settle into now. Not had one that quick this time, which is interesting, might be at the wrong depth. try holding it a little bit higher. See if we can nick one. Maybe they sat up a little bit, if not. There you go. Maybe they just sat a tiny little bit higher. Golden ones, look at them, beautiful, beautiful fish. Again, if this is not great, because it did take a little bit longer to get that one, this is not, don't start going under all the time quick, I'll be back out there. Another one though, pretty quick that time. It seemed to have just come a little tiny bit higher. Just holding me stop for me jigger a little up. Too very quick on that. Which comes back to what I said before about them little things. Eventually got that down the edge, but definitely had a lull there. Like, not as many long. And even in the edge it seemed to be a bit of a wait before I hooked this one. Just hope I can get myself another like sort of 10 in the last half an hour, that'd be awesome. That could be why. Look, carp. "15 minutes to go, folks. I reckon I've caught 5 or 6 since I had me 10 fish to the end targets. If we can get another 4 or 5, they're like £10 or more, that'd be great. Wind's just got up and my bait sort of struggling to get my casters quite there now. Very annoying late on. So important, make sure you, obviously a lot of people come to these lakes thinking, oh yeah, you don't need big catties and stuff, but I honestly think if you hadn't used this Incredible today, I think I'd have really struggled to get my casters out there. Just got a little drop in now as we've got about 10 minutes left, but I mean I nicked a couple out there. It just seems like Gav sort of nicked them this last bit, like they've gone a bit more middle at lake. Come on, 3 or 4 more down that edge. Would be brilliant. Got 1 minute to go. Make this one count. There's a no. Fish on! that's it folks, time. Hope you enjoyed that. Sorry about the slow start, but what a great last couple of hours fishing we've had. Plenty of them little characters, look. Beautiful F1s. Probably about average stamp we've had today. Just shows though, I think the main lesson there is, even if you have a slow start, don't panic, because when they rock up shallow, you can catch them quick. Great day folks, despite a really tricky start. I honestly wasn't expecting the slow start, and I'm a bit disappointed because I wanted to show you that short line with pellets or whatever bait you want really, it's a great way of judging what's happening. You can watch around you, you can prime your other lines, and it didn't work today at all. But for some reason, I don't think it was because there were no fish in the area, but for some reason the fish didn't start feeding until about 2.5 hours into the match. But great lesson for myself, and hopefully a great lesson for everyone watching, that, you know, 2 hours in I'd got an handful of small silverfish, and I've ended up having a really good day building that shallow line, opening up another shallow line in the edge. That for me is something that I think is really important on commercials. You haven't got to make every decision on every line that you're going to fish at the very start. I didn't know if I were going to fish closer into me, close in just at the back of this sort of bit of broken bank, or if I were going to fish shallow down to them reeds. I thought I'll see what happens, and once I'd had a few bites on that long shallow line and I felt there were a few fish there, I started priming that edge there. I did it with maggots to start off with because I was worried I was going to run out of casters, and then about an hour and a half to go I thought I've got enough here, and I started feeding casters there. I think casters are better than maggots this time of year where possible. You can keep them a little bit tighter grouped, very useful on that long line today, because obviously that wind in the face, had to use an incredible to get them there, but they at least stay something like tight, and also definitely catch less silverfish with casters. But the last little bit of the match, the last 2 hours, were fantastic. I settled on a nice depth on my jigger rig, sort of 17, 19 inches I'm saying was about best. 0.4 of a gram dibber, caster in a band on the hook, and it was fantastic. 20 casters twice, and then just sort of hold it up, drop it down, hold it up, drop it down, and they pull your elastic out. I didn't mention I got a 10 Preston Jura hollow elastic in a short kit, which worked beautifully. Get them in quick. And rotating the two lines, another big lesson. Catch a little spell of them down the edge shallow, go and then go back long, get a really good run of them. Tails off again, back down the edge, get a good run of them there. And because they've been really good stamp, I've been able to really maximise that latter part of the match, stacked all the odds in my favour, got them in quick, and I've had a great result. I've ended up actually winning the match today, despite not catching any F1s in the first 2 hours. Fantastic day's fishing. I've had £198 something, can't remember what, but I hope you've really enjoyed it. Put any questions that I might have missed in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. And yeah, I'll see you on the next Match Day Live. Slide on.